All right, welcome to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the most inspiring place on earth for season 2 of Before the Snap. For everybody tuning in there, we just want to give an overview on what this program is. This program is a program to look at all the different careers in and around the NFL. There are so many careers out there, whether it's athletic training, coaching, social and digital media, so many different careers out there. And the goal of this program is to kind of step in on one specific career and talk about all the cool things that they do in and around sports to showcase that there's so many jobs out there, so many careers that you can get into. We're super excited to be kicking off season 2 with a guest that was supposed to be on season 1, but due to some technical issues, we weren't able to make that happen. So we decided what better way than to kick off the program today and kick off season 2 with that special guest. My name is Jake Ray, and I'm the Youth and Education Manager here at the Hall of Fame, and we are super excited to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Nate Bain, and we'll get to him here in 1 second and learn a lot about what he does. But our mission here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is to honor the heroes of the game, to preserve its history, to promote its values, and to celebrate excellence everywhere. Those values we promote are those of commitment, integrity, courage, respect, and excellence, all of which not only make our Hall of Famers great people on the field, Hall of Famers, football players, but they make them great people. And those values that the game of football taught them to be great athletes and great people are the same values that make you a great employee and a great person in the classroom, in the office. So we're really excited to see how these values kind of pop up in all these answers you might hear today. Before we get started, I do need to thank a few people. First and foremost, I want to thank our special guest today, Nate, for everything that you do for the game of football and indirectly for us here at the Hall of Fame. You might not know it, but everything that you do with your job for the Titans truly impacts us here at the Hall of Fame as well. So thank you for everything that you do. I'd like to thank our teachers, administrators, educators, professors, anybody who allowed us to step into your classroom today and learn a little bit about different careers in the NFL. We know learning is a bit different than it used to be a couple years ago. So we appreciate you allowing us to be a part of your learning experience. Lastly, all the students tuning in, we want to thank you as well. You know, this program can't take place without you being a part of the program today. We want to hear the questions that you have. I can't ask the question. Nathan, who you'll see here in a second, can't ask the question if you don't submit it. This year, we're live on YouTube. We're not live on Facebook. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, please, in the comment section, let us know who you are, what school you go to, and go ahead and ask that question. Nathan is out in the Gold Jacket Lounge monitoring that feed just like we did last year, and we're going to keep pulling him in to ask your questions. So the important part of this program, this is the floor is open for you to ask a question. So we suggest that you take full advantage of that and get your questions submitted to us today. So today we are lucky and grateful to be joined by Nate Bain. Bain is in his 8th season in the NFL, his 5th with the Tennessee Titans. He joined the Titans in 2017 after 3 seasons with the LA Rams, where he was the team's digital media manager. As a social media manager, he is responsible for all the club's social media accounts, strategy, and content ideation. He's a native of Pulaski, Tennessee, and he graduated from the University of Oregon in 2011 with a degree in sociology and the University of Tennessee in 2014 with a master's in sport management. Prior to the Rams, he served as a student assistant for the Oregon's men's basketball program and an intern at the National Association of Collegiate Directors of Athletics and a media relations graduate assistant for Tennessee Volunteers Rocky Top men's basketball and men's golf program. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome our special guest today, Mr. Nate Bain. Nate, welcome to the program.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate all you guys do with this. It's been cool to see my peers and other teams jump on this. My own coworkers pop on this. So it's a really cool thing that you guys do, not only for your audience, but for us. It's nice for us to be able to hop on here and talk some shop and get a little exposure. So it's pretty cool to pull back the curtains and show what's happening behind the scenes.
Awesome. Well, that's the goal. I'm glad you said it that way, because that's what we do. We want to showcase, you know, there's so much work that goes into when that ball kicks off on Sunday, Monday, or Thursday night. But we want to showcase that there's so much, it just doesn't happen. You know, there's so much work that goes into the lead up to that ball kicking off. And we just want to, and we're happy that we're going to be able to learn a little bit from you today. So I'll kick everything off. And I think it's just an easy way to start the program off. Can you kind of set the foundation, 10,000 foot view on what you do on a day-to-day basis with the Titans and some of the things you're in charge of working on?
For sure, man. That's what has kept me going, and what makes me love my job is it's kind of never the same. Every day is different. Every week's different. Wins and losses affect it sometimes too. But mainly I'm overseeing our social channels. I've recently been able to be promoted to also oversee the new buzzword now is like influencer marketing. So all of our local celebrities and actors and musicians and everybody else, I'm kind of working to build a relationship with those folks that can then help us out, not only just to grow our fandom, but also help in sponsorship in other areas. And then also the thing that most of us enjoy talking about is building out our social strategy and how we're posting things, ways to make some noise, way to highlight our players. It's great when you guys get Derrick Henry's jersey after an insane game, and we get that photo and can send it out. So a lot of my job is planning out our schedule. This week we did our owner is having basically all of the greatest Houston Oilers players back in Nashville for kind of a tribute week, and we're going to have Bum Phillips be inducted into our Ring of Honor. So we were tasked with how do we kind of build up the excitement around Sunday's game starting on Monday. And we just got to work and let's highlight some old players. Let's educate our new fans on our old players. Let's pull old quotes. Let's Love You Blue was the big slogan back in the Oiler days. How do we highlight that? So that's one small example of how we build out content and ideate cool ways, whether it be through video, motion graphics, photography, to make a cool event. And in addition, the league has, again, I'm just breaking down this week as an example. They also have a Latinx Heritage Month, and we have one of our probably biggest super fans. He actually does a lot of work around the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think they have a little fan cohort that goes up there and does some community service each year. His name is Chili Pepper. He's from Chihuahua, Mexico. He's a phenomenal guy. We literally just got done 5 minutes ago doing a photo shoot with him in the stadium, and he helped us announce some cool things we're going to do. So again, that's just part of my job is connecting with our fans, identifying cool fans and celebrities, getting them in our content game plan. And it seems kind of chaotic, but then when it all lays out on social, it's kind of cool. So that's a long-winded approach of 1 week, but take that and extrapolate that over the course of a couple of seasons. And that's kind of what a day in the life is like.
Now you've been in the league for a few seasons, so you've kind of seen how that world has changed, especially over the past couple of years. So from when you first entered the NFL with the Rams to where you are at today, what are maybe the big one or two changes you've seen in your world, in the social media world, and how have you had to adapt to that? And what were some of the ways where you maybe look back on your schoolwork or you look back on previous experience to help you with those changes?
Oh, man, that's a really good question. So yeah, I mean, the social landscape's been crazy. I mean, something as simple as the objectives were to drive all your traffic to the website in 2014 when I started, and every hype video lived on the website. You sent the link there. We couldn't post highlights in game, and now we've transitioned to almost everything being native in platform, and getting ad revenue off of social videos, et cetera. I mean, it's kind of all shifted toward social, and all these platforms have competed for basically our content, which has been cool because as that's evolved and social has kind of gotten slightly more important, at least in the business end of sports, so too has our positions. It's been cool to see my peers who have been in the league with me, at least early on or starting around time, moved up in the ranks. And like I said, I think I've seen some people at least optimistically hope on social media, at least in these social media sport chats, that maybe one day CMOs of organizations will be run by social folks as opposed to traditional marketers. So over time, that's kind of been part of that. And then, yeah, my strategy, again, it's just been cool to see how the importance of social media has grown. I guess players always cared about photos of themselves or seeing their highlights, but it's become a good business objective. And then some of the things in school that helped me, I guess, thrive in my position, some of them are just basic, just being organized, being on time, being able to read and write legibly. I think something I use, an example I use often is, I think my first year at the Rams, I was running around super fast, and we re-signed a player, and I didn't put the hyphen in re-sign, and I put resign. Those are the same word spelled out with just a slight vocabulary difference. And our player did not resign; he re-signed. So I got a lot of heat on that for social media. And I learned you got to proofread what you do and use proper English. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of been in a nutshell how social has evolved from an importance within an organization and as industry. And then some of the things that probably in school helped me not get fired yet. So,
so it's an it's an ever changing world. And I guarantee you, we could probably sit down 5 years from now and that answer is going to be completely different than it is today. So it's very cool that, you do have to stay on your feet. And the word I like to use, and I think, when someone asks, well, what's one thing maybe a student needs to have as they're coming into the professional realm, is creativity. I think the last 2 years have taught us that everybody kind of had to pause and rethink, well, how do we do what we do? And how can we change it to, best suit the people that we're trying to aim for? So I think that's a pretty good way to put it.
Yeah, I love it. Adaptability is probably big too. Yeah. Pandemic hits, we don't get access to players, we can't travel as often. So yeah, I think if you're able to adapt to any situation, you'll be good in this field as well.
All right, I'm going to dive into some other questions here, and then we got some special stuff we want to get to for sure today. So want to throw it back all the way to high school and kind of got a two-part question here. So we hopefully do have some high school students tuning in that maybe have an idea on what they want to do. Maybe they have zero clue what they want to be when they grow up. But throw it back to your high school days and kind of relate this to what a student could do today. How did you find out that this was kind of the niche you wanted to work in sports? Was there something that kind of drew you to this field? And for students today, how do they find that? And what should they be looking for to kind of set themselves up for their next steps once they get to college?
It's another great question. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'm getting old now, man. I think we didn't have any social media when I was in high school. Maybe my senior year of MySpace, it just kind of come on the scene. And that people probably watching this don't even know what that is now. But I think there was an element of, I played sports throughout time in high school. And then I remember I didn't end up playing basketball my senior year. We had a better than we thought team. And all of us started, how do we get like more fans to the stands? And how do we like build this cool student atmosphere? And me and a couple other guys would do some fun, maybe more traditional marketing things just as students, and had a good time with it. And I kind of think like, oh, this is something I kind of enjoy doing is essentially marketing things and getting some hype around sports and getting involved with it. And we ended up having a pretty awesome student section. One of my good friends made funny t-shirts. Like we had a good time with it. And maybe that kind of sparked it. And then as we evolved, long story short, my father was an athletic director at a small school. They had a vote to get your college athlete into the slam dunk competition at the Final Four. It is an NAIA school my dad was a part of. And we ended up mounting this campaign in 2012. And he got into it, and I think played in New Orleans, the dunk competition at Tulane, and he ended up winning it once we got him into the vote. And I was like, oh, this actually is a cool thing that we did purely on social media through Facebook, and then the kid ended up going and winning the slam dunk competition. So I think that's those two elements are kind of the early on ways that I like, this is something I want to do more of. And then as social media has evolved, opportunities opened up.
You talk about, using social media. That's a great example because, I like the fact, you kind of step back and say, that was kind of cool what we just did. And then to be able to realize, well, wait, I can do this and get paid to do it.
Exactly.
That's very good. You mentioned earlier, Derrick Henry, and the Hall of Fame post Derrick Henry stuff are highlights. You're out there waiting for us to put something up or when he breaks a record. So a very cool thing about us here at the Hall of Fame, first and foremost, we are a museum, and part of our mission is to preserve the history of this great game. And what better way to show that than to throw it out live to our museum? We've got Kara Kwasinski-Moeller out in our Pro Football Today gallery in front of a jersey from that player you mentioned. So I'm going to throw things out to her to talk a little bit about that jersey. And I think she's got a question coming back to you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jake. And it's so great to be back here with you guys again for season 2 Before the Snap. And now we're back here in the Pro Football Today gallery, where we have artifacts from some of the biggest moments and milestones in NFL history. As Jake said, my name is Kara, and I'm the senior video producer and chief audio engineer here at the Hall. And again, as Jake said, we're here in front of King Henry's jersey from back in 2018 when he ran himself into the NFL record book with a 99-yard touchdown run. If you haven't seen this highlight of Derrick Henry, you need to look it up because he literally stiff-armed his way through at least 3 different Jaguars defenders on this play. It is plays like this that make him one of the best running backs in the league. Now, Nate, I don't think you're making 99-yard runs for the Titans unless I missed something earlier in the program, but you do help with the social media plan. And you do create the social media plan. So can you tell us how you kind of create this social media plan for game day? And then how do you kind of read and react to moments that happen like this on game day that are unexpected?
Phenomenal question. Yes. I mean, Derek makes my job easy. When you have an elite athlete that just crushes it and he does it against, on prime time versus one of your rivals in the Jaguars, I think that makes the job easy. He's King Henry, he's El Tractorcito. There's a lot of fun things we play with that. But yeah, we try to build out moments in our schedule, whether it's arriving at games, kind of hitting all the moments that we have and have those pretty much set. Everyone knows their role. And then it gives some creative flexibility to our videographers and photographers to capture moments that we may not have planned for. And we have a pretty awesome workflow. Shout out to Donald Page, our photographer, and Nick Conklin, our head of video, and all the Matt Unger, Todd Grays, and Bill Flanagans of the world who kind of help us in our video team efforts. For instance, Julio Jones catches or doesn't catch a touchdown last week, and everyone's debating about it, and our photographer having to get a perfect angle, weren't planning for it, send it to me immediately, goes to our graphic team, and we get it up in like 2 minutes within the play happening, and that image got shared millions of times. So yeah, I mean, basically it's all about having an awesome staff and then having a pretty solid plan together and then allowing for some creative flexibility there. And then being adaptable, being able to hit those moments. We didn't expect I think whatever happened is we stopped Jacksonville on the 1 yard line. We thought, well, hopefully we don't get a safety here. And the next play, Derek's going 99 yards and we're just watching it go down throughout the field. And I'm immediately going, what photo do we have? What video do we have? So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell, but having Derrick Henry as a running back makes my job a whole lot easier.
Oh my gosh, definitely. It sounds like you have to have a well-oiled machine to kind of read and react to all those moments that you guys have and everything like that. But I'm going to take it and throw it back to Jake in the studio.
Awesome. Thanks, Kara. I think it's a very good way to put it. It's not hard when you've got a running back like Derrick Henry to help with your job. And I kind of want to kind of touch on that a little bit. I got one question, a couple more, and then I want to throw it out to Nathan. There are 32 NFL teams and there are 32 NFL Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts. How do you, as somebody who works with it on a day-to-day basis, try to make the Titans stand out? And I can tell you, it's one of my favorite ones to follow. A lot of great stuff coming out of there. But how do you make it stand apart, but still kind of, be in that professional bubble? Because you don't want to go too far, but how do you kind of keep everything professional, but still stand out amongst all 32?
Yeah, perfect, man. I'll pay you later for saying those nice things. But yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it because I see I know almost all of the social folks in the league and all the content creators. We all have pretty good relationships. And I don't know, we're all trying to do a job. So I want to try to be somewhat respectful. And we kind of have guiding principles within our organization from our head coach to our GM to our president and on down, CMO as well. And so my style probably isn't just direct shots, but try to be craftful. If somebody wants to take a shot at us, maybe we have a good reply back. But yeah, I think that's part of the mix, covering your team, doing it well, and then maybe jumping in here and there. There's probably a couple of examples that you have of things that we've had some fun with, but hopefully try to always keep it, above the belt and have some fun with it as much as we can. But also I think like what is Wendy's and some of these other accounts that are non-sports related, built a quick brand and a lot of followers on talking a lot of trash. That just probably isn't our style as much. But we'll have fun where we can. I've had examples of, I think the Jaguars talked some trash to me about Jalen Ramsey, and I found a photo of Jalen when he was like 5 years old in a full Titans get up holding a trophy. And I just send it back at him. So a little bit of trash talk, but nothing too crazy.
I'm glad you mentioned that, specifically the Jaguars. And we talked about this earlier this week. Saw a story online. Jacksonville plays their week 1 game, new head coach, new quarterback, all this hype, and they go out and they don't play up to standards. So obviously, those Jaguar faithful are going to go out, and express their opinions on social media. So, as the Jaguars organization, probably didn't like that, went and unfollowed a bunch of people. Story I read is, Titans kind of swoop in and follow all these fans. Was that just something like, hey, let's have a little bit of fun? Or is there kind of strategy behind that with you and your job?
Yeah, I think in the moment it feels like you just swoop in. But yeah, I guess actually if you step all the way back, there is some strategy there. There's people that we follow, relationships that we've made with certain folks to help you kind of identify when things are happening on social or give you heads up. That was hopefully a playful thing that wasn't too aggressive. They might not take kindly to it. I'll hear from them when we play them. But yeah, I think a couple of people identified that said that high-ranking like Jaguars fans were getting unfollowed and getting upset. I thought, hey, this could be a fun opportunity to, like, they're making a big deal about being unfollowed. What if they're the most rival team, the team that they hate, does follow them? And luckily enough, they could have just saw it and didn't do anything about it, but they then responded. And since they're already such a big personality within the Jaguars fan culture, it got wings of its own. A couple of people at different publications were also Jaguars fans, were also upset, took note. And to be honest, like, we didn't play so hard our first week one either, but it took some pressure off of us playing poorly week one to have this story run. So yeah, there's some fun things we did there. And I don't know, makes your job a little more entertaining than dealing with coming off a week one blowout, and we can have a little more fun with trolling the Jaguars, who's our playful rival.
Yeah, I think that's cool. One thing I don't think if anybody watching this hasn't got that yet is that you definitely have fun with what you do and truly enjoy your job for sure. So with that, I know we've got some students who have asked some questions in the YouTube chat. So I'm going to throw it out to Nathan. I think he's got a few he's going to ask. So Nathan, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Awesome, Jake. Thanks for sending it out here. And we do have several questions that have come in on YouTube. Students, if you are watching and you haven't submitted your question, go ahead, put your name, put your university, let us know what you want to ask Nate today, because I know he'd be more than happy to answer that. We're going to kick it off. We got a question, actually, Cameron from Dakota State, Andrew from Bellarmine University, and Juliet from Central Florida, all kind of asked the same question, Nate. So they want to know, in your opinion, what's the best way to get your foot in the door, to get started working in the NFL, and maybe even specifically working in social media and marketing?
Yeah, another solid question. I mean, it's obviously changed. When I came into the field, no one really had experience, and the jobs just started opening. So it's a little different landscape, but I try to keep my finger on the pulse. The age-old networking is still pretty solid. You can go about doing that different ways, but some of the ways I was able to get in position to even have a job at the Rams was just meeting a lot of folks, networking as much as possible, and you make some relationships there. And suddenly, oh, hey, this job is open, and you kind of get a head start or know about a job before it opens, or maybe get connected with the hiring manager, and et cetera, et cetera. Those things are still pretty solid. And then when I'm hiring, I look for experience to some degree, and that can come in all shapes and sizes. There's a young woman who was at the Rams who I ended up hiring, and she took over for me when I left. Was at the University of Georgia, but I don't think had ever done football or maybe in basketball. I think she was in softball, track and field, maybe swimming and diving. But through her experience running, maybe not a football account, but she showed her ability to be creative, have good copy, think on her feet. And I was like, this would be perfect for us at the Rams. Hired her, and she blossomed and did a phenomenal job without any of my help, obviously. But it's one of those things, whether it's a local brand or a local high school or whatever you can do to get some experience running an account, I think is super valuable, because when you do get those jobs, even if you get it through networking, you don't know how to do your job, it'll show quickly. So networking and just getting any kind of experience you can, I think are definitely helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really encouraging for our students, because not everybody's going to have the opportunity to run a social account for, a major organization or maybe even a major college. But if it's a local business or you're at a small school, just take advantage of the opportunity in front of you, because you can use that when you get into that interview. So Zach from George Washington University, he said he wants specific tips from you on how to build that network. So what are ways that you've seen success for yourself in building that network? And I know we here at the Hall have some suggestions as well to building your network.
Definitely. Yeah, I think you guys probably have some good ones as well. Hopefully our ideas will overlap. Some of it is kind of just almost like a door-to-door salesman, which seemed kind of not great, but I think I had an example of an athletic director that I'm friends with. I think he said, this is before social media time, sent like 100 letters out to different people he admired and only got one response back, but he built a relationship with that one person, and that kind of person helped guide him. So some of it's not necessarily cold emailing, but finding craftful ways to reach out to people that you appreciate and just get a little bit of their time, hopefully ask some articulate questions and get some help there. And then find things that are, some of it's like you go to, for example, go to a bar. You have to strike up conversations with people in an airport or a bar. Finding ways to just be social, help and connect those dots are some good ways. But I've had good success, especially if you're a student. I always try as good as I can to take time, whether maybe even I don't say lie, but say you have a student project you're going to do, and you need to talk to people who you admire, want to be like, and get some of their time that way. But I think definitely as a student, most of us will, in our positions, have been there before and would like to help. And suddenly you start building relationships that way. So maybe that's not the greatest example. Hopefully you guys have much better ones, but reaching out to people within positions you want and try to find unique ways to take 5 to 15 minutes at a time and learn about them, and hopefully you can build a relationship that way.
Yeah, well, I think kind of what you were saying, I would piggyback off that. We encourage students, pull up a media guide. You can get access to the NFL team media guides. You can look at all the positions that are out there. And then you kind of said a cold email. Maybe you can't find their email. Almost everybody's on LinkedIn. So you reach out to them, send a message. You've said lie about a school project. We're not going to encourage lying on before the snap, but, come up with a reason that you need to talk to them, and don't just be like, hey, I want to add you to my network, or, hey, I think your job is cool. Make it a legitimate reason. And I would encourage students today, if you want to talk to Nate later, we've put his LinkedIn account. We've put the link to that there in the comment section. So feel free to reach out to him afterwards. Maybe tell him, hey, I'm not someone random. I saw you on Before the Snap, and that can kind of help you start that conversation for sure. I'm going to ask one more, and then I'm going to send it back to Jake to do some more questions. And this is from Daniel, and he just said, coolest part of your job. What's the coolest part of your job?
I'll give you probably the bragging one, and maybe not so brag. Like, traveling with the team has been phenomenal. I've been able to go to Mexico and London, and I think I've been to every stadium except for Vegas now. So that's been super cool. Get paid to do that. Obviously, sometimes you have relationships with some of the players. That's obviously great. It's good and bad depending on what they are. Taylor Lewan and I have a solid relationship at times. But also, I think connecting with our fan base has been something I didn't anticipate, but has been probably the most fun. Building a community. We have a small franchise here, a really small market, and we've started to have success from the field, and our fan base has grown. Like I said, we just did a photo shoot with a fan from Mexico. Never thought I'd have a friend in Mexico, and it all came because of social media and the job. Take that one example and again multiply it. And then I've gotten to know musicians and athletes and all these other people that are fans of our organization, and they only connect through social media, and that's kind of cool too. So being able to bring our fans closer to the action and make relationships has probably been my favorite part of the job.
Yeah, that's awesome for sure. So I'm going to send it back to Jake. I know he's got some more, and I'm sure students will keep sending them in. So you might hear from me again.
Hope so.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan. Well, Nathan, I am going to steal a little bit of your thunder because I do have the YouTube chat pulled up right here. And Cameron Belden already asked a question, but I'm glad you mentioned Taylor Lewan, because his question is kind of along the lines of that. He said, how do you connect and interact with players who also have a big fan base? Example being the Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. And a bonus question, he asked, are you for the boys?
always for the boys. And I think helping out, like, we all have different philosophies, even internally, probably on some of these things. But I think if a player can build a great platform, Derek probably is a good example as well. I don't know what he started with. He went to Alabama, won the Heisman, had a big following already, but we've helped supplement him with media, connect him to the right people sometimes. We have a PR woman named Kim Smith, who I think was on the show. Yep. She's done a phenomenal job of helping Derek do some things behind the scenes to really elevate his platform. He's got over 1 million followers now. He's doing really recently. She teamed up with him to basically, Derek said, if you have art of me, let me know. I want to buy it from you. And that really got our community going and really pulled up some cool content. But the bigger Derek's star rises, we kind of are coattailing him. When he's on a national Old Spice commercial, that's good for the brand. And same with Taylor. He's hitting a different demographic. Him and Will Compton, I remember them being in the locker room talking about, what if we had a podcast? And I got to interject myself because I was friends with those guys and passionate about that project, and connected them with some people locally who kind of helped start their foundation of their podcast, and it has taken off from there. So I've taken pride in helping where I can, and then those guys just taking it from there. But I think, if we build for the boys brand, King Henry brand, whatever else it is, it's going to reflect well on the Titans most often. So that's how I view it. I think if it's good for them, it's good for us. I try to be as helpful as possible with all that. And I think the beautiful thing, our team of content creators and PR folks, we're kind of all on the same page, and it really helps us take off. So when Taylor has an elite celebrity on Bussin' with the Boys, I think people are subconsciously going, oh, he's a Titan. Okay, cool. All right. So And then, yeah, some of the other ways I've helped is try to get them guests, try to get Derek connected with, I'm trying to think of who's Kane Brown. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a big Derrick Henry fan. And we got those guys together on the field a couple years ago. So again, that's kind of how I view it. And I think I feel good when those guys succeed.
Very cool. Huge fan of the Bussin' with the Boys for sure. So I want to thank you for your help in getting that ball rolling and getting that out there for everybody to listen to. Kind of another cool question. And you talked about, the question was, coolest part of your job. And you kind of talked about traveling and everything and all these experiences, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you, one thing you've gotten to be a part of, one game, one moment, one thing within your career that looking back might be, you're like, hey, I got to be a part of that. When you're telling your grandkids the story about what you used to do, it was, I was there when that happened.
Yeah, I think the easiest answer, probably more fun, are the games. It's tough because I think little kid me would have been most excited about the Ravens winning 19 in the playoffs, and it still was. That story's probably better. But our first playoff win, and I don't know, when was that? I think it was 14 years or something, was when Marcus caught the touchdown pass to himself in Kansas City. We were down 21-3. It was super cold. I just remember running out of the tunnel, getting hit with how cold it was, and then going right into a celebration of just us kind of pulling this upset. I'll always remember that. And then, playoff win against the Ravens. They were 14-2. No one really gave us a shot. They had a phenomenal game. The atmosphere, the whole city was buzzing, and we kind of just came in and hit them in the mouth. And plus, if you're a Titan fan or listening, the Ravens had just always crushed us when we had our best teams, even in 2000. I think when 08, they hurt Chris Johnson. I think we're 13-3. We're number 1 seed. They come in and beat us. So to do that to them, I think really exercised a lot of demons from our fan base, and was really, that plane ride back was just so fun. So those are probably the two of the things I'll never forget. Hopefully we get a Super Bowl one year. But until then, those will be the top.
Everything we've talked about today, and you've mentioned a few times, everything your goal is to bring everything back to the Titans brand and, kind of pub that. And I think here at the Hall of Fame, and part of this program is to kind of showcase what the game of football can do, along those same lines, everything we do, whether it be a game, an enshrinement ceremony, an interview with Nate Bain, all these things we do, we're just trying to showcase what the game of football can do. Here we say, we're unapologetically football, which, I think we have to be. But there's so many things out there that can teach you life lessons, teach you great character values. But football specifically, what do you think it teaches people who play it, coach it, work in it, are fans of it? What can a game of football teach all those people about their life and those values that they can apply to become a better person?
Yeah, you can take this a number of different ways. I think there's some element of patience playing the game in high school and figuring out, waiting your time to play. And some of our guys, has been really cool to see. Practice squad guys like Anthony Ferkser, one of my favorite guys on the team. And he was an undrafted guy, bounced around, went to Harvard. He gets on our team. Somebody gets hurt. He gets an opportunity to play a little bit. He starts catching passes. He catches touchdowns in the playoffs. And now he's probably our starting tight end. So there's some of that. Perseverance is involved with that as well. But definitely think and like I said, Taylor Lewan's a great example, the teamwork element. I always enjoy having conversations with him about who's getting up a sack and why it happens, and the teamwork that the offensive line has to do. Probably for us, it's probably the best example of everyone has to know their job and rely on it together. And when it all syncs together, you get a 2,000-yard rusher. It's the same thing with us. I think when we all can kind of row in the same direction, our product internally behind the scenes is a whole lot better. When our workflow is working together and all that kind of stuff. So I think those are probably not the greatest examples that I could probably give, but there's a lot of teamwork, a lot of perseverance, there's some patience involved. Those people looking to get in the sports world, I remember I applied, I think 5 or 6 different jobs the summer after my schooling ended, and I was always runner-up, or, oh, you just missed the cut. We found somebody better. We hired an internal candidate, and then finally the Rams job opens up and I take it, and it's probably the best route I could have gone in hindsight now, but I was so demoralized after missing out on all these opportunities, whether it was SEC Network, ESPN, some of these other colleges, and then the job I ended up getting was the best one. So that could perhaps be parlayed together.
All right, I think Nathan's got some other questions for you, so I'm going to throw it back out to him to ask a few more from our audience watching online.
Yeah, we definitely have some more questions. This one comes from Dominic, who attends Bryant University, and you've kind of already touched on this, Nate, but he was asking again, best way to get started in the NFL. But then he also added, once you're there, how do you like climb the ladder? You know, like you've changed jobs, you've had to move. So maybe you could kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, one, if you're a content creator, I think every team is trying to present more opportunities to folks, whether it's internships or whatever. One of the easiest, fastest ways I think I've seen success, at least getting your foot in. Now it's still early, so we don't know how fast you can move up, but the NFL has started an LCC program, and that's basically every team gets 2 to 3 creative people, photographers, videographers. They work on game day and do bonus activities outside of sports that the league pays for. But that basically is a way, hey, there's this cool content creator that we know of or we've seen their work or whatever, and they're able to get on the field and shoot. And that's basically all it is. There's not much of an interview process. I mean, there is, but it's not like you have to go through all the bureaucracy of working in an organization. You're talented, you interview, everyone likes you, boom, you're on the field. That's pretty quick and impressive how that happens. And we've had a lot of success with some great talent come through here and move on to other stuff. I'm trying to think. We have one young lady who now is a sports reporter in Knoxville. We have one guy who went on to work for social for the Saints, another for the NFL, another at Vanderbilt. So they kind of use this as a stepping stone to get good work and then move on somewhere else. And then once you're in it, it's tough because every organization is so different. There's 32 NFL teams, but they're all run like their own private businesses. Some are mom and pop shops, some are massive. You kind of just have to, I think, always have my work together. I don't ever want anyone to be concerned about what Nate's doing. I want to always have our shop buttoned up. So when they come to me, I'm always positive, always have solutions to problems, and kind of always have my work buttoned up. And sometimes that seems to lend itself to me getting more opportunities and getting promoted when you kind of take care of your own business and be helpful to your coworkers.
Yeah, I think that last point about, just do really well at the job you have and people will recognize that. We kind of talked about having your stuff buttoned up and how that kind of lends itself to getting promoted or having other opportunities open up for you. So I think that's great advice for Dominic there. This is from Juliet again that attends UCF. And she said, where were you at age 20 compared to like where you're at now? Like what experience did you have then? How did you go, okay, I'm 20 years old, I need to get experience so I can be ready for grad school or whatever. Where were you at age 20? Because I'm assuming she's probably there right now.
It's a really good question too. Yeah, we talked to my 20-year-old self. There is like a lot, especially I remember being like, oh, panic, I have to do stuff. But I think at 20, I knew that I needed to make moves, but I had no idea. I didn't know that social didn't even, those jobs didn't exist when I was 20. So there may be jobs now that you have when you're in your 30s, as I am, that you didn't even understand. So for me, I just kind of enjoyed the moment. I enjoyed working for the Oregon Ducks at the time, having fun with friends, etc. And then, like I said, the networking aspect of it, I had every connection that I kind of had for the most part came from friendships more so than like work colleagues. So yeah, I don't know. I just have a good time with life. Don't overstress. Like it's all going to work out to some degree. Just take advantage of opportunities, be an awesome person. And then I think for me, at least when I was 20, yeah, I was working for the Pac-10, doing stuff with Oregon, and it had social media barely existed at that time. So you never know what's going to happen. I think just be open to opportunities. I think you mentioned earlier, like, how do you move up to, like, I was willing to go from Tennessee to Oregon to Cleveland, Ohio to Knoxville, Tennessee, St. Louis to Los Angeles, and back to Nashville. So I moved 7 times in 13 years. And that kind of sometimes, not everybody's life is like that, but if you're willing to move and take advantage of opportunities, you can kind of move up the track that way. So in short, just have fun with life, dude. Don't take it too serious.
Yeah, I love that answer and kind of giving your, give 20-year-old Nate some advice. And there you did it. And Juliet, hopefully she can take something from that. Last question, I'll send it back to Jake coming from me. This is from Zach, who attends the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. And he wants to know specifically, do you know if the Titans have any type of postgraduate internship programs? And then what specific advice would you give Zach when he's applying to an NFL opening to maybe stand out compared to the other applicants?
It's great. So for us, we didn't really we had a few internships here and there. And this will probably hopefully get the chat buzzing, but we are working, and I hope to have it next year, probably like almost an organizational wide internship program. And our HR team has done a phenomenal job of building that. And I think we're going to hopefully roll it out where almost every department kind of has an intern. So you're going to hopefully see the Titans open up a lot of internships in 2022, which is good for everyone, me, myself included, and the chat. So hopefully look for Teamworks Online or some of the other places that jobs are posted. LinkedIn is another one that Titans are specifically utilizing. So we should have internships this spring, and then just help yourself stand out. I mean, again, it's different, but when I was trying to get noticed, I noticed a lot of people had resumes, but I built a website for myself. That's kind of common practice now, but like I would send my resume and then I'd send it with it this website that highlighted some of my work that you needed to see that you couldn't see on your resume, maybe some points about me. And I ended up in my time at Tennessee, it's a weird story, but would wear bow ties with a lot of my outfits on game day because I had to suit up. And the CMO at the time at the Rams, thought that was really cool. Maybe he had some bow ties. I forget the connection, but he was obsessed with that. And then the social media guy that was also hired me was a big wrestling fan. And we had done a big project with a WWE wrestler for the University of Tennessee. And so both of those things were on my website and got them talking, and it's like, oh, I want to know more about this guy. And suddenly I have an interview with them. I have a second interview, I have a third interview, and I get the job. I think my work spoke for itself, but also those personality quirks help make them relate to me a little bit more. So any of those, like for us, if he's from Lincoln or from Nebraska, throwing a Will Compton, busting with the boys, shout out. Hopefully it might help you get noticed a little bit more.
Yeah, so he can do that, or he can wear a bow tie. That's what I took.
Or a bow tie, exactly.
So that might help him stand out. So
game day fashion for me is a must. So yeah.
Love it. So I'm gonna send it back to Jake, and if we get some more from students, we'll come back over here. But if not, thanks again, Nate, for tuning in and being a part of this with us today.
Yeah, and thanks, Nathan, for those great questions for students. Keep submitting them. If we don't get to your questions today, don't worry. We're going to have opportunities. You have it's on you to reach out and ask your questions directly to Nate. Nate, we've talked a lot today about, we've mentioned creating the Titans brand. And, careers you could have had when you were in college are totally different than careers that kids nowadays are looking at. They're on social media all the time. They're on Instagram. They're on TikTok. They're on Snapchat. I don't even know if Snapchat's a thing anymore. It was when I was growing up, but they're on all these platforms, and they're almost creating their own brand. So for somebody who might be living in that world or interested in that world, what would your advice to them to kind of create their own brand of themselves, to maybe have their own website, have their own, portfolio that they can then take to those jobs they're applying for?
No, I think I hate that it kind of is that way, but I think it's almost like part of it's an essential thing you need to have. You kind of almost have to build your own brand to get noticed. I think it's a phenomenal point there. And then, you got to I guess you kind of somewhat need to figure out what that job is you want, and somewhat craft. You need to be personal and have your own brand and be authentically you. But also you need to come in, speaking honestly, craft it to what job you want to have. There's certain things that Bustin' with the Boys would prefer that the Titans probably wouldn't prefer, and vice versa. I think making that personality authentic to you. My favorite is kind of what we're talking about, but the NILs and all the stuff of college sports, and they're talking about the quarterbacks are going to make the most money and all this. And I think there's like gymnasts that have built their own brand and done such a good job on TikTok and Instagram that they're actually making the most money, as opposed to the quarterback at whatever Division I powerhouse. So just because you're not doing that, and you see someone else that has the grass is greener over there, if you knock your out and be true to you and build out your brand as best you know how, I think sometimes you'll find the best opportunity for you. So it wasn't great advice, but I do think you need to, if you haven't had a personal brand or don't have a public profile on social, probably need to make one, because the people looking to hire are going to check those and want to kind of see what your personal brand is, because you're going to be bringing part of that to the club that you work for.
I think parlaying after that question into this next one, technology is ever changing and is becoming more and more available for everybody. So specifically for you, how are you using technology, online webinars, different sessions or things to better your craft and become the best employee of the Titans that you can be day in and day out?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes I get bogged down in the day-to-day. I'm like, I don't want to go do this or this. But I try to always, the best I can, be optimistic about some of this stuff. And there's always some nugget I can take from it. Even like speaking with before the snap like that, I always need to work on public speaking or this, that, or the other. And I try to always, whether it's I think after this with you guys, I'm going to talk to a high school here. So like if I want to be hopefully an eventual leader, that figurehead of an organization, we'll see if that ever happens. You got to practice some skills and refine some. Same thing with social media. Like, these platforms are changing so fast. You know, Instagram has reels and stories and IGTV and all these other things they're rolling out. Facebook's got new product development that I just learned about from sitting on a webinar that Facebook put on, and how that integrates in my stuff. If I do, it's like, I don't want to spend 30 minutes doing that. I might miss out on what the next thing is, and I'll be behind the 8 ball trying to play catch up. So I think the more professional development stuff you can do, especially as a young student, the better. I felt like I learned and just was absorbing better. I didn't have bad habits when I was in college. I guess I had some, but not in the professional world. So I think the more you can jump into those webinars, those public speaking opportunities, whatever it is you're into, those are definitely helpful. Or just sitting in and watching before the snap and listening to all these different people tell their backstories. Something will connect, and I think hopefully help you out. So yeah, I think the more you can do those things, the better.
Awesome. Well, now we're even on the plugs for all of our stuff. So we'll call it even after that.
Yeah.
Nathan just sent me a message. He's got one more question he'd like to ask. So I'm going to throw it out, back out to him, and then we'll start to wrap after that.
Yeah, this is a great question that came in from a high schooler named Isaiah from Penasco High School, all the way out in New Mexico. So he wants to know, what's the best college degree path to get into a job like you have in the pro sports world?
Dude, this is cool. You guys got people from Dakota to Florida to Mexico. That's cool, man. Honestly, I think everybody's path is so different, which is not like, it'd be cool if I could just like go to this school, get this degree, and you'll work at the Dallas Cowboys. Unfortunately, like, all of us have different paths and we all look for different things. When I was coming up, we didn't have any social media at all. A lot of colleges offer digital social, career paths, and they have a lot of internship opportunities, et cetera. I like to tell a lot of students, go try a lot of different things and see what you don't like before finding out what you do like. Sometimes that's more helpful. But I mean, yeah, I don't think there's a specific degree. Like, now, maybe try to find something in social digital media, but some schools don't have that. So maybe do a little more traditional journalism and marketing. All of those. The weird thing about at least my job, and probably all of our job, is we have a leg, a foot, an arm in all these different departments. So I'm a little bit of community outreach. I'm a little bit of sponsorship. I'm a little bit of marketing, a little bit of PR, because I'm having to promote and be in all those meetings to help come up with new ideas for sponsorship to pitch Nissan Stadium or Nissan for their new upgrades or whatever it is may be. So I think the more well-rounded you can be and the more classes you can take in just different fields probably will help you out long-term, probably in life, but definitely in this field. But try to do some of the more traditional social digital media, journalism, marketing. Some of those things will definitely, I think, help you on your way to being a social manager. But if you poll all the 32 teams, I think we all have different degrees. The social coordinator that works under me, I think, is an IT degree. So, I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah. So basically what I took from that is the degree that you choose doesn't really matter that much. It's all about the experience that you're gaining. You know, the classes that you do take, are you actually taking advantage of that and gaining some value from those, or are you just kind of trying to check a box off while you're in school? So the degree doesn't matter as much. Go get some good experience, which with whatever degree you choose, Isaiah. And like I said earlier, Nate, thank you so much. I know Jake probably has another question or two to wrap things up, but really appreciate having you on Before the Snap to kick off season 2. And we'll be back next week. I know Jake will talk about that, but thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. And thanks to all of the students who we got questions asking from. As Nate said there, you know, we had students from literally all over the country tuning in today. Very, very cool. And one of the goals that we have with this program. So if we didn't get to your question this week, we're going to have another program next week. We'll have 20 some more programs the rest of the year. So don't feel like you missed out. We'll still have some more program and some opportunity here for the end of the year. So Nate, and I'm going to wrap things up with our last question here. And this is a question we wrap, you know, every program up with pretty much that we do. Excuse me. We had Isaac Bruce here at the Hall of Fame on Wednesday for a Heart of a Hall of Famer program connected by Extreme Networks. And we ended the program with this question as well. So I think it's a great way to kind of wrap everything up, nice, pretty bow or bow tie, and then send everybody out with one piece of advice that they could take away. So that's exactly it. Sum everything up what we talked about today. What is one piece of advice you want everybody taken away from the program today?
Oh, man. Hopefully have to go back and watch what Isaac said. I feel like Isaac Bruce probably has better knowledge than me. I think what he might have just said, it's the last thing Nathan said, but take advantage of opportunities. I think maybe have an optimistic mindset. There's things that will certainly get you down, but I think if you take advantage of opportunities and do it in a positive, optimistic way, I think life kind of opens up and presents unique opportunities. And people just want to work with positive folks. They want to have people that are solution oriented. So it's kind of a wide Matthew McConaughey-esque green lights topic. But if you kind of go along that route, I think that will probably lend itself to good things. And then, I don't know, like, subscribe to Bussin' with the Boys and Before the Snap, so we all get good ratings. So subscribe to Hall of Fame, bump those numbers up, and hopefully I'll be hanging out with you guys hopefully it's like 20 years from now, but we'll plug Derrick Henry for the Hall of Fame soon. Hopefully that's not a hard plug. So everyone go vote for Derrick when he's up for the Hall of Fame.
I don't think it would be a difficult one, especially if he continues rushing for 2,000 yards a year. So I think that one, if he does that a couple more years, I think we could probably check that box. So again, with that, we're going to wrap up this installment of the Before the Snap series today, featuring Nate Bain, member of the social and digital team for the Tennessee Titans. Nate, again, thank you so much for being a part of the program. As we mentioned before, this was supposed to be a last March or April program, but some technology stuff happened and we couldn't make it work. So we said, let's just kick off season 2 with Nate this year. So again, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. We know it's just not a Sunday job or a Monday night job or a Thursday job. It's every day of the week, literally, especially for someone in digital media, because who knows what's going to pop up and when it's going to pop up. So truly an every day of the week job. So thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be a part of the program.
Definitely, man. I'll be in the bullpen anytime you need me. Just slide me in. I'll be a recurring guest.
Oh, that's awesome. We might hold you to that. So you just don't know what you got yourself into. But dude, before we leave today, I do want to throw out, Nate mentioned that, follow the Titans, stay tuned to what all the stuff that they're putting out. Follow us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you're a podcast listener, I know we mentioned Bussin' with the Boys a few times. We here at the Hall of Fame have a podcast as well called The Mission, hosted by my great friend and coworker here in Canton, Jameer Howerton. He's talking to all kinds of people throughout the game of football, authors, members of the media, people who could be one day in the Hall of Fame, Gold Jackets themselves. So tune in, make sure you're staying up to date with all the great things that we're putting out here on our social media channels, as well as the Titans. Make sure you stay in tune to all the different programming we got coming out. As I said, as Nathan hinted to, next week, we have special guest Ethan Medley of the New York Football Giants. I can't do it like Chris Berman does, but I still like to say the New York Football Giants. So make sure you're tuning in for that program next week. Should be another really cool, interesting program as we learn about the world of community relations and youth football. Something new this year that we want to throw out there to all of our viewers. If you want to be the first to know, because we kind of send these out on a monthly basis, you may see them pop up on social media every now and then. But if you want to know who's coming up and when they're coming up, feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email at education@profootballhof.com. And we're going to kind of let you in on who we got coming up, maybe a little bit about their background to give you a kind of an insider look at who we're going to have as our guests. So you kind of have that information and are prepared for that next program. So again, if you want that information, email us at education@profootballhof.com and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. Again, Nate, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. As we said at the beginning, football isn't just a one-day-a-week job. It's not just the fall, not just the winter. It's every day of the year. And so we thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And for everybody who tuned in, I hope you learned a little bit that can help your own career, whether it's I want to be in social and digital media, or hey, this is how I can get my networking started. Whatever you took away from today, we hope you learned something, because that at the end of the day is the goal Before the Snap here. So from myself, from Nathan, Kara, from Nate, thank you so much for tuning in today. And we hope to see you next week right here on our YouTube channel for the next edition of Pro Football Hall of Fame's show Before the Snap. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you.